Greetings, dear friends. The objective of doing this presentation is to help us realize that there are certain behavioral blocks that inhibit growth, and the content that I've presented this day is based on research that has taken place since the year 1975. What I have done is consolidating those behavioral habits that have inhibited our growth and have stopped us from moving forward either in our careers or in personal effectiveness. Um, what I've done is just a consolidation, which means I've taken time to look at real good content to see what areas could we look at so that we can focus on growing. So, firstly, one of the blocks, right, that stops us from growing is to think that what one says or does is better than what others say or do. To always keep ourselves higher than others, thinking as though our opinions matter more than somebody else's, right? Is the first point. That inhibits personal effectiveness, that inhibits us from growing in our careers. Second point, always to want to get our own way, right? Some of these behavioral habits are unconscious. We just tend to do it either because we are not aware or we've done this over a period of time, so what's the big deal? Let's just carry it forward, is what we think. But it really stops us from moving forward in our careers because always wanting to get our own way inhibits us from seeing another person's point of view. That's why it doesn't allow us to go forward. Thirdly, is to argue with stubbornness and bad mannerisms, whether right or wrong. What matters most is not just stating an idea or stating a point, but how we actually present it, right? We need to first have the right intention. We need to talk about that point that we have, and we need to do it not with stubbornness, not with bad mannerisms, but with more politeness. The problem today is in the modern world, it becomes very difficult for people who have not had the right kind of formation to know what real politeness means, right? So, the third point, to argue with stubbornness and bad mannerisms whether we are right or wrong. The fourth point is about giving opinions even when others are not requesting it, right? There's no necessity for us to give an opinion, for example, right? Nobody's asking us, but we just barge into a conversation and then we give an opinion about something which has been either requested or when charity does not demand it, which means there is no reciprocal conversation. There is a monologue going on somewhere, but we want to state our opinion very quickly, right? It's not going to be honored. That's the problem. It's not going to result in a dialogue. That's the problem. It's not necessary for us to give our opinion then. The fifth point, to look down on another's point of view, right? It's most essential for us as we work in the industry, in the professions that we carry within ourselves, to be able to look at another's point of view openly. We need not, absorb everything that somebody else is saying, but right in a conversation, if you start looking down on another person's point of view, it does not result in a real conversation. The conversation is not authentic. You will never honor the person with whom you are talking to, right? The sixth point, not to look on our own gifts and talents as something that we have either received or absorbed from a mentor or an elder or a leader. What I intend to say is, this is also a problem in today's world, where most people think that everything that they have with them is something that they have acquired by themselves, right? In other words, that is to say that all the good things that we learn from our elders, from our leaders, from our mentors is not something that we are giving credit to them for. In other words, taking credit for our own selves and talking a lot about our own selves and our gifts and our talents as though this is something that is inborn, Others have to honor us if at all they have to. It's not you and my job to look on our own gifts and talents as something that we have either received or absorbed from mentor and elder or leader. What I'm trying to say through that is we need to recognize that every good thing that we carry within ourselves, every good quality that we've absorbed, it has not just fallen from the sky, has it? We have either received it from good upbringing, we've either learnt it from a given mentor or an elder or a leader, or probably something that we came across in a given book. That is what we have to give credit to rather than taking all the credit on ourselves. I hope that point is clear. Point number 7, not to recognize that you're unworthy of all honors and esteem. I think I spoke a little bit about this as well, but specifically what I'm trying to say, if we consider ourselves too worthy of all the honor, right, and think that we are the sole owners of all the things that we have received, it shows that we have actually a lack of humility. What is needed is for us to acknowledge who we really are. We don't need to act like we are somebody even though we are not. Point number 8, to use ourselves as an example in conversations, right? Normally when you quote examples, you quote the names of people who have lived either before you or have already etched their name in history as something to be lived by us who live later than them. So, for example, to the likes of Steve Jobs, to the likes of Norman Vincent Peale, to the likes of Noam Chomsky, and several other leaders who today stand as examples, right? Those are the ones that we ought to use in our conversations, not we or our names in a conversation, telling others how great we are or how great our accomplishments is and things like that. That shows that we have a lack of humility within us, and lack of humility signifies that we do not have the ability to grow. The ability to move forward comes only when we really know who we really are. Point number 9, this is a very interesting trait that the modern world carries within itself. So what do some people do? They act and they speak badly of themselves so that others will think well of us or contradict us. So when you normally speak bad about yourself, what does the other person do? They say things like, no, 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 you're actually good in this area, you're actually good in that area. And when they say that to us, we have this so-called false halo feeling on the head that we are somebody good in front of others. Guys, we don't need to we don't need to speak badly of ourselves so that others will think well of us or contradict us. The root cause of this problem is we really don't know who we really are, which is why we act and we put on a show. We don't need these traits for us to grow. Right? Moving over to the next slide. To excuse ourselves when we are corrected. Right? We need to know how to take correction positively. Right? If someone is correcting us, okay, listen to the entire conversation, try and understand, is there anything there that I can really apply? If there is something that you can learn from it, fantastic. Be happy that somebody has been critical of us. We got to be happy that somebody is saying something that is of good to us so that we can correct and change our course of action. Rather than doing that, trying to excuse ourselves when we are being corrected, it shows that there is a lack of growth in our intellectual capacity and in our emotional capacity. Point number 11, to hide humiliating faults from our elders and mentors so that they will not change the impression that they have of you. Guys, in this modern world, it is necessary for you to have elders and mentors with whom you can have a healthy conversation without feeling insecure. Why? Because without a leader in your path, without a right mentor in your path, it's almost impossible for you to find growth and fulfillment. We need to be able to share authentic conversations with our elders. Now, that person can be just one or two, or a real mentor who can mold us. We need to be transparent with that person so that we are able to see us taking those small steps to building our character. That's when intellectual maturity and emotional maturity really happens. The point, to take pleasure in praise and compliments. It may not be very interesting for you all to hear what I'm saying in point number 12. It's obvious, right? We love to take pleasure when anyone praises us or when anyone compliments us. But this is linked to the earlier slide. Notice why we don't need to take pleasure in praise and compliments. Because when we know that what we have received is either a gift or a talent that we have received from above, or we have learnt that from a given elder or a mentor, or we have learnt that from a given business leader who lived an authentic life. When we know that the source of all those good things are not in oneself, it is quite normal not to take pleasure in praise and compliments, but rather to give those praise and compliments to the ones who really deserve it. That is the real quality of a business leader. Point number 13, to be saddened because others are held in high esteem. Right? If you're a real business leader, or you want or desire to grow in future, you cannot appear sad when you see that others are held in high esteem. What is due to them is given to them. What is due to you is given to you. Right? A person with real maturity feels happy when he sees another person growing. So, this is a quality that we should become conscious of and somehow let go. Right? We need to let go of this. To be saddened because others are held in high esteem. Point number 14. To refuse to perform inferior tasks. The biggest advantage of knowing that you are a leader is knowing clearly in your mind that there is nothing called as a superior task or an inferior task. A leader leads from the front. When I say that the leader leads from the front, the leader takes into consideration the lifestyle of a given soldier who, when going to war, does not worry too much about what is so-called a great task and what is a so-called small task. There are no small tasks. There are no large tasks. Everything has to be given its due consideration. Right? So we ought to actually be people who can take initiative. Even when things are hard, even when things appear inferior, we got to go ahead and do that. That's when those who follow us or those who look at us know that we are setting an example for them. Point number 15. To seek to stand out. Real leaders do not seek to stand out. They know very well that they will anyway stand out because of the quality of their lives. We don't need to seek for that position, seeking for that mic or a podium to stand on and show who we really are, public display of who we are. All of this is not required. Right? Remember that a lotus is found even in a pond. Diamonds are found within rocks and are found in rocks. It's not necessary for us to seek to stand out. For others to know who we really are, the moment you start living an authentic life, you automatically become visible to somebody else. Point number 16. To refer in conversations to your honesty or your genius, abilities, or to your dexterity or your professional prestige, constantly talking about it in your conversations, are really not required. All of this does not allow you to see yourself as you really are. The most important aspect of growth happens when we know who we really are. The last point is to be ashamed because you lack certain goods. Guys, having a lot of goods or not having goods doesn't either make us small or big. it is irrelevant. There are real leaders, there are real mentors, our ancients in India pretty much. If you look at them, the quality of their lives described who they really were, not the things that they possessed. Our attachment or our so called greatness must not come from the things that we possess. I hope this conversation and this quick presentation has helped us to realize where we really stand. 90% of the problems that are there within us, if we realize that is real diagnosis. When we know what is wrong, we can spend 10% of our time trying to fix it. As I end this presentation, I encourage you all to a fruitful career, a career which will last. Right? These are the 17 qualities that I put down together based on research that has happened since the year 1975 for us to absorb. Right? Thank you. Have a good day.